Welcome out to a new episode of It's All Been Done Radio Hour. This is the second in our exit interview series. And I, Jerome Wetzel, the creator of the show, am sitting down with Shane Stefanchik, who played Meow Meow for 8 years on Universe Journey.
Never thought I'd have to do one of these.
Sorry. Yeah, no, actually, we created this series specifically because of this.
Yeah.
That I think Kristin made the comment, like, yeah, you should definitely do a podcast where you talk to Shane about Meow Meow. And I'm like, yeah, we definitely should. Because it was a big part of the show for such a long time.
Yeah, it was the second or third character introduced? Fourth, maybe? In Universe Journey?
That's a great question. I can find out while we're talking.
Well, it was Kake, obviously. Maybe Tokolati and Jameson.
Well, Kake and Jameson were introduced first because they came in on the shuttle to approach the ship. And then he goes to the bridge and he meets the rest of the crew.
Everyone else,
which would be Tokolati and Foley and Meow Meow. I'm getting it as well. But that was in the very first show, very first segment.
Yeah.
So within the first 5 minutes of It's All Been Done Radio Hour, Meow Meow was on stage and introduced to the audience.
It sounded totally different.
I know. Don't I know? I put together the previously on video, and I played clips of your early episodes. Yeah. I like to think it just being around humans rubbed off.
Yeah, no, that's my headcanon too. Is he started off a little more coming from his home planet, and now he became very humanized, and I mean, he tried to adapt a little bit to fit in. So. And you'll notice that too if you reach the Echo arc, and you meet a certain Echo character. I don't know when this. Oh yeah, I don't know when this is airing. So.
I mean, the Echo arc is all aired. The Echo Wars are done on the podcast.
Good, yes, yeah. Echo Meow Meow. Echo Meow Meow is a lot more evil sounding. Yeah, because he is evil.
I mean, we are going to hold this for a whole year, so everything that happened in the last year is free game too.
Yeah, all right.
You could talk all the way up to his.
Yeah.
What happened last week's podcast, or I think it would be last week, when you turn off the hologram.
Yeah.
Because that's why we're doing it. We want to talk about the whole breadth of the character.
Yeah.
By the way, I did look up the script, the very first script, and Meow Meow is the first of the bridge crew we met. Because I think we assumed he and Kake would be like that Kirk Spock, or Kirk McCoy, because obviously Meow Meow was more antagonistic. But yeah, right away it was, let's get him out there, let's introduce him. Wow, that's...
A long time.
So long. I was going to look at your audition, too. Was that the only character you auditioned for?
I don't know. It might have been.
I will look, because you were the very first audition I ever got. Yep, that was the only audition you sent on May 18th, 2015.
Holy crap. May. Wow.
Yeah. My name is Shane Stefanchik. I'm 27. I knew your age. For years, I thought it was cagey. You gave me your phone number. You do accept text. This will be your preferred email address. You give me your availability. I'm interested in the part of Commander Meow Meow, which was still written out at that point as MEOWAVAW. Also interested in the role of Foley, but my recording is only for Meow Meow.
Yeah.
What about, because there were a lot of characters in that initial audition packet, what about Meow Meow spoke to you that made that the one you were interested in?
I don't know. I think, it just seemed like a fun, it's an alien creature, it's a voice, and whatever the description was of it, that voice sounded right. And so I was like, yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah. What was your inspiration for that voice?
Okay, so it's a little bit of, and I didn't know this at the time, but after thinking about it over the years, it's a little bit of Zorak from Brack and the Space Ghost, and so that's the main influence. I don't know where the accent came from, because he's got especially on R words, it's all been done radio hour.
It's almost a roll, but not quite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that extra timbre.
So I don't know where that came from. It just sort of happened the one day. Yeah, his O's are a little more round too.
They are.
Tokolati.
They are.
Yeah.
And the S, that took a while to work into the dialogue.
Yeah.
I kept having to write it in or we'd miss it.
Yes.
It's no, we need those hisses.
Yeah.
But
and if you notice, hologram Meow Meow has never hissed.
I did not notice.
Yeah.
The subtleties, the detail these actors put into their characters astonishes me. For realism, and it really adds a lot to the characters that they're such different, because you played 3 versions of this character, and you've differentiated them.
And once Meow Meow impersonating evil Meow Meow,
right?
which was
evil Meow Meow impersonating Meow Meow.
Yeah, which was a interesting. I don't know if anyone even noticed, but that's always a fun. I took my inspiration from Tatiana Maslany on that one.
The master.
Oh, yeah.
The master of that type of thing.
Yeah.
From Orphan Black. Yeah. That was a wonderful episode where Meow Meow had to argue with Echo Meow Meow. I don't think we've ever asked another actor to do that. Like, have an extended scene where you're arguing with
I feel like I had asked you at one point, like, could this ever happen? Because I thought that would be a lot of fun to play opposite. Yeah.
I thought we might have a Echo Jameson scene like that, but it never ended up happening. And just story-wise, it didn't come about. But yeah, Meow Meow, I wouldn't say that was pre-planned. That was just like the way that story built to. Do you remember what you first thought of the character once you got the first couple of scripts and started to see how he behaved?
Yeah, I like that even to the actors, we weren't 100% sure that he wasn't evil. Like, I mean, in my mind, I was like hoping not, but yeah, it's like he was very good at guessing.
Why were you hoping he wasn't evil?
Well, just because I like that if it's too obvious, like it shouldn't be.
Right.
So it's like, oh, he's doing some stuff. He knows too much.
Also, if he was evil, his tenure probably would have been much more short-lived.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. He just sounds sinister by accident, especially early on. Like,
it's just his species. That is a specious comment.
Exactly. Yeah.
He really got along well with pretty much everybody except Kake at first.
Yeah.
But he was not a go along, get along person. Like, as soon as Tokolati expressed his interest, he's like, I just don't find you attractive. What was your favorite dynamic to play, you think, in those early days with Meow Meow?
I think I especially liked when he started to want to be best friends with the captain, and he's just, rejected every time, and like for almost no reason, and then there was a big reason where he, dropped the air conditioner. Oops.
Yeah, but even after that, Kake still would shut him down. And, I mean, at one point, Kake just says, I just find you annoying. Like, it's nothing you did. It's not that you're evil.
Yeah.
I just don't like you.
It's like,
which is realistic.
Well, yeah, and it's just you don't have to be best friends with your coworkers.
Until Kake actually got a peek at what your life was like around your planet and your species, and then he actually felt bad for you.
Yeah, he was the outsider.
Yeah. What ideas in the early days do you think you had about his species or where he came from? Did you have a headcanon, whether that ended up being the way we went or not?
I think so. I think, I think it was that sort of like, like he was sort of ostracized from his species because he wasn't evil, and all of them were, to some varying degree, what a classic evil of just like, no, they're not great. They're not great.
A lot of politicians.
Yeah.
They're always evil. Not always.
Mostly.
Yeah, his people were just so superstitious and anti-science.
Yeah.
They were basically the MAGA planet of human history.
Right. And then, that's the thing. Like, he was all about science. And, like, that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he sought a situation where he was different, but he never tried to fit in. What does that say to you about his character? How did that influence the way you play him?
I think, because he's so analytical, it was just a lot of the, like, this is who I am. Why don't you like me?
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend to be someone else. He had a lot of learning to do about humans, which I think then, he helped, maybe behind the scenes, but also helped, like, with New and her development of like, hey, I've already been through this. Like, I don't understand it. Maybe you do, and obviously she does more. But yeah, like I don't get it. But here's what I've learned.
Do you think it was easier for him to accept not being liked because his own people didn't like him, or do you think that it was more painful because he's like, I finally went someplace I should be accepted?
I think a little bit of both. I think that's why it didn't bother him as much as it would other people. But yeah, it's like, well, like, I don't get it. Like, I'm here. I'm part of the crew.
But it was really just Kake that didn't like you, because we saw, Tokolati in that first season. We saw Tokolati and Who and Foley go out of their way to try to help you and clear your name and everything.
Yeah.
Once you were said to be evil because you were framed by the evil Janice Jameson.
Janice.
Any particular moments you remember in those first three stand out to you?
It's hard because my timeline in my brain is all shifted around. But obviously the improv with Foley, that was one of the best things. And I'm bummed we didn't record the rehearsal for that, because I feel like the rehearsal was even better than the show one. Not that the show one isn't good, but with improv, you don't want to repeat it, so...
That is the reason we record rehearsals to this day.
But yeah.
I believe we instituted that rule the month after that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, Shane, we don't want to miss another one of these.
Yeah.
So
yeah, probably that one, and I don't know when I dropped the air conditioner, but
that was late, let's say.
That was a good one.
Or late season 3. Late season 3.
Yeah, I just the added oops.
Well, he had a good reason for doing it. Do you think, I mean, that I could see, I haven't discussed with a lot of fans whether they hated or approved of his decision, but do you think in your mind, was any part of him, like was that fully justified, or?
Oh yeah, well he was saving the timeline. It's the it's the whole good of the many thing. He's a science person. I'm sure he studied temporal mechanics to some extent, and he knew the consequences, and it's like, listen, in his mind, Kake was his best friend and captain, but like there are limits to how far that'll get you when it comes to.
I mean, we made sure to bring that up in the final goodbye messages. Like, I'm not sorry.
I'm not sorry.
But I am sorry for the pain it caused.
Yeah.
Not sorry I did it. I do it again.
Yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat. I think it's just my favorite. My favorite is just the added oops. Like that was almost very insulting. Like. You weren't oops. That wasn't an accident.
No, but I think for the moment, obviously for Kake, he's going to know it was on purpose. But I think that was for the benefit of the other people that saw.
Yeah.
Like,
oops.
maybe they would believe it was an accident. Even though he didn't stick around the timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did what has to be done. And that to me, is an admirable quality about Meow Meow, that he never let what other people think influence the way he did things. Yeah. If he knew it was, I mean, maybe there were certain things he did to.
That was. I feel like that was maybe one of only 2 or 3 times he just outright defied Kake. A lot of other times he reluctantly went along and was like, okay, I'm telling you, this isn't a good idea.
Right.
As early as episode 1. Down on the planet, like I wouldn't go that way.
Oh, and when he came in, he was such a stickler for the rules, and I think that does carry into what you're talking about, that he respected the chain of command even when he didn't agree with it, unless it was something so important where he's just like, you're wrong here. I have to do it.
And I think at a certain point he stopped quoting the rules at Kake, just because it was even he recognized at some point it's futile to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to listen.
No.
Now he understands that's not ever happening.
Why do you think Meow Meow wasn't attracted to Tokolati? It wasn't just her looks, as we know.
Yeah, right. I would say just I would say especially based on one of the last messages, or one of the first messages he recorded, he found her to be meek and sort of a pushover, and he wasn't really attracted to that as a personality. So when he met, Tokolati's mom, who was an admiral, and like,
ballsy.
Yeah. It's like, oh.
She is attractive.
Yeah.
Even though I assume they look similar.
Probably.
But. And you know what, though? There's something to be said that he did fall for Tokolati's daughter, and so Tokolati's personality had to have influenced New as well.
Yeah. But that would have been like post, when Tokolati finally became more of a like person.
Do you think he might have been more attracted to Tokolati later in the series? Had that come up? I mean, at that point they'd moved. They'd had such a history.
Yeah, potentially, but I think especially just the running. It might have been funny if they came back around like, hey, so if I don't know, some kind of like space creature made everyone lust after each other, but he was still like, no, still no.
I almost think it would be funny if it came back around and he's like, no, I actually do find you attractive now. And she's like, you missed your chance.
Yeah.
Like a long time ago. I'm married now with a kid.
Right.
So towards the end of the Thrifty years, New was built by Foley and Tokolati, and Meow Meow's the one that figured out the key component to make the personality work for New. So he had a hand in that. What do you see their relationship having been initially? I mean, you weren't a creator, but you did have a hand in her creation. Yeah,
I think, to Meow Meow, they told him that, Tokolati and Foley told him that they built this creature to be the pilot. And so I think, especially initially, he just was like, okay, well, it's just another tool to be used on the ship. It's a part of the ship. It's it's a science experiment in some ways, and he accidentally, put in some major influence to make this machine work, and then as the machine grew into a person or an individual, like that kind of changed everything, and because of the way her news analytical side, like that was the most equal he's ever seen another entity.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for the first 6-9 months, whatever it was, till we got to that trial episode where she got her personhood, it was very telling we didn't let Meow Meow speak at the trial. And that was a conscious decision. And I think most people assumed, including the character, argue against her personhood. Yeah. Just for logical reasons. But we found out much later when he finally revealed what he was going to say that it actually was a more nuanced answer.
Yeah.
It wasn't anti or pro either, I don't think. I don't see it as like... It was
very Meow Meow.
It was. When do you think he started to see her as more than...
That's a good question. I don't know. I think definitely, probably when maybe one of the first times that she solved a problem that he couldn't, I think maybe that's when he realized, like, oh, maybe there's something more to this. Because there were a lot of parallels early on of, he was analytical and very emotionless in a lot of ways. And then as she kind of surpassed that and became more emotional and more human-like, it was like, oh, wow. Like, maybe he saw a little bit of hope that he could fit in better, too, or something like that. And then camaraderie of that.
Well, I think it might have helped, too. They had such a long absence from each other in the middle of that story.
That's true, yeah.
So, like, just as she her own, Meow Meow was not around her for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the Echo Dimension and all the trauma that went with that. And when he left for the Echo Dimension, there wasn't any romantic spark between them. That happened naturally after they came back together. So I think his experiences may have changed him as much as they changed her.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, they'd influence
it's the great love of their lives, and she'll never get over him ever.
Before we leave the 50 years, though, I do want to touch on Meow Meow's relationship with Dr. Ashek.
Yeah.
Do you think they were... we've joked that they were probably better buddies off-screen than we saw.
I think so, because I feel like they didn't really have like a ton of screen time together. And I feel like it's just like, there's so many people on the ship, and obviously we see them when they're working mostly. So I think, there's especially one of the recordings was, they went on adventures together, shuttle off ship missions, just solving mysteries just for fun.
They both like mysteries. They both like to drink copious amounts of alcohol, as we know. Copious. And I think that she also didn't care what people thought of her.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably attractive. I'm not saying romantically speaking. Just something like a big positive.
She was probably so drunk that she didn't care that Meow Meow was off-putting.
She did call him Scaly Skin, which was an offensive nickname.
A little bit, but maybe it became an endearing nickname.
I think he said at one point, like, I've never had a nickname before, and I like having a nickname, even if it sucks. So Scaly Skin, but he also has chicken feathers apparently.
Right, yeah.
That was somehow improv in at some point. Was never part of the character original pitch.
Yeah.
So the Echo Dimension story, I mean, Echo Meow Meow is really the first Echo character we met, because that was the episode where, we saw Meow Meow in the Echo Dimension, so we barely met his counterpart, but he was the door in. What do you think his early impressions of the Echo Dimension were? I mean, his first trip was right onto the Thrifty. Some bad people.
Yeah, I think he was probably one of the best to handle it, because he instantly recognized the evilness of it after have been, growing up on a planet of evil people. So I think anyone else, most other people who would have gotten that happen to them might not have been able to pull it off. But he just kind of, it's like against his whole, the antithesis of everything he's become, he had to slip back in and pretend,
Well, and, I think can't remember if we said it explicitly, but the part of the reason is people are so evil is because they've got that wormhole there and things have come through before. Yeah. They were influenced by the Echo Dimension centuries ago.
Yeah.
So even if the wormhole's existence was not widely known, there was crossover at some point.
Yeah. So that's why, I feel like, they're the ground zero of evilness from the Echo dimension. Maybe they didn't start off that way. Maybe they're original people, the original, surreptish. My goodness.
Yeah. Well, we know they weren't just like immigrants that came over because we saw duplicates of them.
Yeah.
Of some of them.
Yeah. So I think they started off probably like most in our dimension, like fine, and then the influence from the Echo side really tainted everything. And especially if they were religious people, like to begin with, like us, creatures came from the sky and we got to listen to them. So,
or was it the other way around? Maybe they were always evil, and their influence made the Echo dimension evil.
Ooh, that is true. We don't know.
Explore that. But
that could be.
We did say there was probably some crossover at some point.
Yeah.
So after he comes back to the station, and Kake makes him take that horrible job because he's already given away the science officer job.
Yeah.
As liaison to his people, how do you think that period of Meow Meow's life? What was he thinking? What was he feeling now that he's like back among his friends, but he also has to be by the people he hates?
Yeah. Oh, that was miserable. I feel he probably thought it was a punishment for the air conditioner.
I mean, it probably was.
Yeah. But no, yeah. I think that was probably the worst. He didn't get to do science, which was his passion.
Right.
Really, he someone else got the job. And he didn't. I don't think he ever disrespected them. Right. But. Should have been his. Yeah. Well, having to deal with Pirtle.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Pirtle. Well, Pirtle was who he replaced, but yeah, I'm sure he still worked with him. Yeah, that was Kake unnecessarily cruel, making him take that position.
I think on the one hand, I'm sure Meow Meow saw it that way. I think Kake probably made the best decision he could because, I mean, if you've got someone of that. Like that is the best liaison he could have possibly chosen, especially because the surreptish, even though they don't like Meow Meow, they definitely don't like anyone else even more. So,
right. Yeah, I think he was tired of dealing with them himself too.
Yeah,
just like do it. But he didn't have to let Meow Meow stay on the station. That was his compromise.
That's true. Yeah.
So I guess you could argue that there must be something he liked about Meow Meow at that point that he was willing to let him stay in some way.
Yeah.
Even if it was through torturous methods.
Yeah.
And so obviously we had a whole ordeal with Meow Meow's sister and Meow Meow's parents.
Mm-hmm.
We explored that a little bit, but what do you think that meant to him, really? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, I think... So obviously, he probably wouldn't have left home if he didn't get along with them, or if he got along with them well. I think it's probably a very strained relationship, but... I mean, it was still family, and so that was probably very rough, especially because he was framed for it.
I know.
It was like, no, I didn't do this.
Not the first time he was framed for crimes.
Yeah.
Poor Meow Meow. He was everybody's scapegoat.
I know.
He was like the broccoli light of outer space.
Right, yeah.
And then, of course, during that time, he fell in love with Neo.
Mm-hmm.
That was something you and Kristin both pitched and pushed for early on.
Yeah, it seemed to make sense, and the two of them together, like they can have this intellectual tit for tat and all of that. And I don't think anyone else on the ship really could have provided that, kind of a mental stimulation.
Yeah.
Plus, she had a beard.
She did. He really liked that beard. I also think, and sorry, I'm jumping back to what we just moved away from, but I mean, I think for Meow Meow and Kake to repair become best friends as they eventually were for the last year or so of his life, you had to get to the point where Meow Meow wasn't hero worshipping Kake anymore. Yeah. I think that was part of what came between them, is Meow Meow was too hot or too cold. And Kake wanted something more level. And I think by going through what he did and resenting Kake for what he did, that probably leveled out their relationship.
Yeah.
We didn't see a lot of the year Meow Meow spent on Surreptidia with Kake and Norton.
Yeah, so we know a lot happened. But yeah, I mean, it being in such close quarters for a year with someone you either hate or worship, that's going to alter either way.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, do you, in your head canon, were there any significant events during that year? Or do you think it just kind of things wore down over time?
Yeah, I think they definitely wore down, but I'm sure, especially being kind of hiding out and on the run sort of a thing, they probably saved each other multiple times from close encounters with, evil.
Yeah. Meow Meow also has relationships with some of the secondary characters because he spent a long time with Luna in the Echo Dimension. Mm-hmm. He spent a long time in Surreptidia with Norton.
Yeah.
What Do you think he ever lets characters like that in the way he lets in his oldest friends? Because we didn't really explore it that.
I'd say probably not. I feel like Meow Meow is the kind of person who has room for like 3 people tops, and that like the 3 of his top best friends, and then the rest are like, we're close, like we're friends, but we're never gonna go, copious drinking.
So who were his 3 best friends at the end?
Oh, Kake, New, and Bueller. Yeah,
Bueller,
yeah, obviously.
Obviously. I think by the end, Anders might have been pushing his way up into a 4th position.
Yeah, I feel like he was reluctantly respecting Anders towards the end. He probably didn't want to be, but
yeah, I think there was a lot to be said about just what you were talking about, that he didn't like Tokolati for her meekness, and Anders was meek for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when Anders was stepping up that they started to get along a little better.
Yeah.
And yet, Meow Meow still sacrificed his life for Anders.
Yeah, I think that, with that, like, it wasn't even it probably wouldn't have mattered who it was. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just how he would have done it. Like, or especially logically, I guess the only way would have been if it was some rando that didn't matter. Like, but he could recognize the importance of Anders and probably calculated and made a lot of guesses that this is probably the best outcome. Yeah. And then he did it.
Why do you think he was so good at guessing? Is it the analytical mind?
I think analytical mind and maybe there's just something in the surreptish that is just a little mystical. I don't know. A little bit psychic? Yeah, just a little bit.
I mean, they are very religious people, so that could be part of that ingrained. Mm-hmm. Another story we never picked up on, but we did reference it in the final episode of the hologram, was that Meow Meow had a pet named Chris.
Yeah. So
would you like to talk about Chris?
Yes. Oh, Chris. So for a while there in year 2, maybe we were going to be doing this improv podcast where it was just Meow Meow trying to learn how to be a better member of the crew. He, in some kind of science experiment, he accidentally time traveled a human from Earth onto the ship from the year 2016 or something, and he was just this drunk college kid who was just drunk all the time and didn't really understand what was happening, and so Meow Meow sort of hid him on the ship and treated him as a pet, and his name was Chris, and so his full name was Chris Topher. Because he didn't understand. And then, then the ship blew up, and I assume he probably just assumed Chris was on the ship and blew up. I like to think Chris is still out there somewhere. He was probably off the ship partying somewhere.
Yeah, I think...
Probably on Top Lycia.
I think when we talked about it, Chris did not die on the Thrifty. Yeah. But I don't remember if we came up with what happened to him. Certainly we didn't revisit him. I was looking because I was trying to remember if we released the test episode you recorded on our Patreon feed, but I don't see it, so maybe we'll need to
I'll have to see if I can dig that up.
I have it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I can.
I think we recorded 3 episodes.
I only have the one you did with Dallas.
Okay. We did one with Kristin, which she was I forget what her character was, but it was almost new, I think. That was yeah.
So I'm making myself a note. I'll go ahead and release the one I have on the Patreon feed, which means by the time you hear this, it'll have been on the Patreon feed for a year. So go check it out. Yeah. But if you find any of the other ones, send them to me and I'll release everything.
Again, that was the whole thing is totally unscripted and just goofy.
I'd love to just release what you got, just because it's fun.
Yeah. I'll see what I can dig up.
Cool. So Meow Meow and New, I mean, obviously they went through the breakup when New died. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we did explore that pretty in depth on screen. So I don't know that we need to dig into it a ton here. But their reactions to death were so different. Yeah. Why do you think their reactions to death were?
Well, I feel like by that point especially, was that after Echo? Was that when New died?
In the middle of the Echo War.
But that was after he was framed?
For
murdering his family?
Yes.
So I feel like, especially after that, he has been through so much loss, and I'm sure there was a lot on Surreptitia that we never saw before he joined, that he was used to it. So even a great love like New, he processed what was happening, and bye. Yeah. And this is the first loss New had. So
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really, I mean, she lost the thrifty early on, and that affected her deeply.
Yeah.
But she worked through it and moved on. She hadn't lost a person.
Right.
This.
Yeah.
So
Not something that couldn't be replaced.
Right.
And she tried.
She did.
And she did a good job for the most part, but...
I mean, the holograms, that was, the hologram idea was something we talked about for, 2 years before we instituted it? Because I was toying with the idea of killing Meow Meow, and I don't even remember which one of us suggested creating the hologram, but I know you and Kristin and I worked through that together.
Yeah. Because you think like, oh, they killed a major character.
Right.
Oh, they brought him back as a hologram. Cool. So we're not going to lose him. And then it's like, oh, no.
Especially going into our Voyager arc, because it just makes sense that he'd be the holographic Doctor version.
Right, yeah.
And we'd slap a patch on him and he'd leave. Yep. And I felt like we had to address that straight on by having them talk about, like, we could probably develop something.
Yeah.
No. That's beside the point.
Yeah, it's not the same person. And while she's done a really good job, and he is still a good guesser.
Yeah.
It's just not the same.
It took a lot for her to. I think she was lying
6
to
months,
herself
give or
for a
take?
while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she was lying to herself. I think it just took something happening.
Mm-hmm.
Him saying the wrong thing or.
Yeah. Well, and who knows? Maybe if she would have had unlimited computer resources, she could have made him almost identical. But the limitations of the holosuite and just and it's just not the same. It's the same. It's the same argument in a different way of, well, is this the same person? Because you can program memories, but you can't program the experience.
Right.
And so he'll never have that.
Well, the other thing that's missing, though, is when she downloaded her memories, they were complete memories. He didn't have the emotional context.
Right, yeah.
What she was loading into the hologram were his, public diaries and recordings. It's not every thought in his head. So it's never going to be as deep as what hers was.
Yeah.
That's where I see it as two very different situations.
Yeah.
Do you think she'd ever try again when technology improves?
I think after the 8th season finale, where she shuts him off for good, I think she's finally come to terms with it's even if she could, it's still just not the same.
Yeah.
And there is no way to replace it other than time travel or
Now you're just messing. Well, we know that the one time travel thing that we've really established in canon was the gate that Takake's mom guarded, and they've shut down that project. So there's not a ready way for her to time travel at this point.
Yeah. But, and also, I wouldn't want to, I feel like, as much as I love playing Meow Meow, I like, it was a great ending for a character, and I don't want to, maybe we'll see hologram Meow Meow again in 5 years, and as a real, we can't figure it out. News gone somewhere. What do we do? I need some advice. I know. Dust off the program, Alpha 1.
Yeah.
But I don't think that should ever be a crutch or anything. And if they ever do boot it back up, maybe new built-in a kill switch to say you get one more in an emergency and... I
mean, Tokolati refused to keep news backup memory after a while, so we know that's not an unheard of.
Yeah. Or maybe it's his choice in a way.
Do you think it cheapened Meow Meow's death at all to have this hologram story for 6 or 7 episodes?
I don't think so. I think no. I don't think that.
Even though it's not him.
Right. Yeah. It's not. And if you go back and listen to the first time he's booted up, it's very not him. And even in the finale, you could tell it's not really. It's close, but there's something not quite right.
I mean, as a fan of the series, had we gone down a Dr. EMH path, it would have cheapened the death entirely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think what we did with it, to me, if I go back and re-listen, I'll be more affected by the death knowing how permanent it was when we had this tease that maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because him being shut down, we get to see the real Meow Meow in the finale because we get the recordings from the real Meow Meow, which is different than the hollow Meow Meow. Mm-hmm. So in a way, we are still saying goodbye to the real Meow Meow in this episode. It's just 6 months after his death.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they were going through some stuff. They had to wait to get to it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Z.
So I do think at some point we'll have to see him, whether it be in flashback or time travel or some, not the hollow version, the real version.
Yeah.
Like when Tasha Yar died in The Next Generation. We saw an alternate timeline or whatever. Where would be the number one way you'd like to see Meow Meow come back, knowing that it's years in advance and certainly would be like one-offs. We're not ever bringing Meow Meow back in any large way.
Yeah. It would definitely be a time travel situation because I love time travel. Me, Shane, I love time travel.
Sure.
I do it all the time. And now I think it'd be fun if, especially he, like, either he knew the whole time, like maybe it was like the day before he started on the Thrifty and he met everyone. It's
So
like
they weren't guesses.
maybe. Well, no, I think a lot of the guys, or you know, like after their adventure is over, he's like, erase my memory. I need to not know about this, and you know,
Sure.
to uphold the timeline because
Sure.
he's so.
He would care about that.
Yeah.
I feel like that would really cheapen the character if we revealed that they weren't guesses. That
Yeah, I
you
know.
were-
No.
We're not going to do that. I promise we won't do that.
Yeah.
I promise we won't bring him back in a big wet, like, full
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Like, but we'll see. I gotta believe we'll see him again at some point. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's too tempting not to.
All right. Yeah.
I mean,
But-
we haven't seen Aw Shucks, but
Yeah.
in a long. Did we ever see her after her death? I can't remember.
No.
I don't think
I
we
don't think
did.
so. But you know.
We've mentioned her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any final thoughts about Meow Meow, your tenure, how it feels to put him down after 8 years?
It's weird. It's such a natural switch to go into the Meow Meow voice. You know, like I remember early on, it was almost a strain to do it for a prolonged period of time, and then I just kind of I figured out how to do it easier, and now I can just switch right into it, and with accent and all.
And I do think we could tease the audience that part of our agreement when we decided to kill Meow Meow was you would not have to leave the Universe Journey cast.
Yeah.
So while you won't be playing Meow Meow, you will be taking on a new role here very soon that they'll
That's
have
true.
to tune in to find out about. But we replaced I don't think it's a very similar character at all. Won't sound at all like him, but we did want to keep you as part of the Universe Journey core because you've been there forever.
Oh yeah, and
it
you know,
fair at this
we
point.
wanna-
We're not gonna Tom Cavanaugh like in the Flash. We're just gonna do different versions.
Yeah.
Of the same character, but you had a great pitch for a new character, and I'm excited to keep you in Universe Journey in another way.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, that's it for this exit interview, and who should we kill next?
Ooh, let's see, Anders.
Air conditioner on the head, right?
Yeah. Oops.
Ghost. Yeah. It's All Been Done Radio Hour, number 479, exit interview number 2, Meow Meow, starred Shane Stefanchik and Jerome Wetzel discussing his character. Please check out our website, IABDpresents.com. Have a great week. It's All Been Done presents
Who's got the time?